and former RNC chairman Michael Steele. So, Joyce, did they make their case?
They made a good case. You know, the decision point, if you're a prosecutor, is there enough of an add-up between people who understood that Trump had lost and their communication of that fact to him? And we hear this happening from multiple people. We never hear an acknowledgement from Trump himself, but ultimately the cumulative effect of this, person after person, whether it's campaign staff talking about the numbers in the elections or folks at DOJ batting down every allegation of fraud he makes cumulatively, they show that that knowledge should have been in place. And then Zoe Lofgren does something that's absolutely brilliant in this hearing. She's trying to convince the jury of public opinion, but this would be a great move for prosecutors here. Prosecutors don't have to prove motive in most cases, but she proves up the motive, and that helps us understand all of the other evidence that we've heard. Why would a president continue to prosecute his allegations of fraud long after they've been misproven? He did it because he was making money off of it. He was making millions of dollars, and he was funneling it to people and businesses close to him. Now we see the evidence in context, and it becomes easier to understand what Trump's game was.
And Michael Steele, that brings us full circle back to the politics, which inevitably is the result of a congressional hearing, as we say, the court of public opinion, and the final message to donors, that they were also duped, as were the rioters, duped by the former president of the United States. And this brings us beyond the midterms, because inevitably this is also about 2024. And the likelihood, according to all of the reporting and a lot of advisors, that Donald Trump plans to run again.
Yeah, it is. And that's been sort of the mainstay. I'm still not convinced he does, because two reasons. One, it doesn't want to do the work, and he doesn't want to lose. So I think, if anything, that keeps him at bay. But what it does allow him to do is to continue to reshape and reshape the presidential field going into 2024. To Joyce's very excellent point just made, this has always been about the grift with Donald Trump. This has always been about how they make money. They use the RNC as a cash cow. They still do. They still do. And the reality of it is their legal bills are paid by the Republican Party. So a donor knows that when you write a check to the RNC, baby, about half of that, if not more, is going to go to Donald Trump in some form. So the reality of it is this part of the hearing sort of laid that out, laid out the game, laid out the grift that underlines the game, and gives you a better, clearer understanding of what the motivations were. It also, when you put both panels together, it shows the psychopathy of this president, a man who is absolutely hell-bent on getting the outcome he's already created in his mind. Keep in mind, Andrea, this mindset was not formed post-November election. This mindset was formed and expressed in April of 2020, when he said, I'm going to win this election, and if I don't, it's because of fraud. So we already know where the mastermind of all of this is going on. And the final point that I think is also very, very important that was drawn up here was not just have this mindset by the president, but then you've got that incredibly defunct and awkward law firm of Giuliani and Powell and Navarro, who keeps feeding this beast. You know, Trump is talking to his Department of Justice, and other political and election officials are telling him there's no fraud. Move off of this. And yet he's still getting fed this by Giuliani and company, which perpetuates this thing, which ultimately leads to officials saying, you know what, you stick with stupid. We're leaving. We're done, because we can't convince you that this is not what you think it is. And
Michael,
here we are.
It doesn't go back to just April of 2020. It goes back to the 2016 campaign. I mean, he was talking about fraud and a rigged election before the RNC in 2016, and he brought it up again before the election in 2016. He thought he was going to lose, and he was talking about a global conspiracy that was going to put Hillary Clinton in power. That was the theme of his rallies toward the end of the campaign. Ultimately, he didn't need it, didn't talk about fraud because he won, although he did start to talk about it early on in the day on Election Day, when it didn't look very good for him. He let it go once the tables turned and he ended up winning the election. Talk about the money that Joyce brought up and Michael brought up. Excuse me, I'm going to just read it to you in case you missed that graphic as it went by. $1 million to the Conservative Partnership Institute, $1 million to the America First Policy Institute, $204,857 to the Trump Hotel Collection, $5 million to Event Strategies. Frank, a lot of the rioters who have been in court, would-be insurrectionists, have used the defense that the president invited them there, that the president told them to be there, the president told them that there was fraud.
Indeed, and now here they're faced with the reality of that fraud. You know, sales and marketing professionals will tell you their theme is volume, volume, volume. If they want to sell an idea or a product, counter-radicalization experts will also tell you it's
Frank, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but we want to go to Ali Vitale, who has Adam Schiff, Congressman Adam Schiff. Let's listen.
Hi, guys. How are you? We're live here with Congressman Adam Schiff. Obviously, you saw and you were a part of what happened in that hearing room. Talk a little bit about the connection that you made between the willful ignoring of the facts that the former president was given by his top aides, and then, of course, what we heard from rioters here on the day of the insurrection, that they came because they felt that their votes in the election was stolen from them.
Well, I think that the hearing outlined very clearly how, even before the election, Donald Trump was out there telling the country something that he was told was not true, that he knew was not true. That is, that if he lost, the election would be somehow rigged, that votes that were counted after Election Day, when all the absentees were coming in, would somehow be suspect. So he was laying the foundation for that big lie. And then, of course, after the election, he's advised by his own people not to go out and declare victory, that they needed time for the votes to come in, disregards what they say, and then just continue with a big lie. Even when his attorney general told him it was BS, when other senior members of the Justice Department said there was no merit to the fraud allegations, the U.S. attorney in Georgia looked into other allegations and said they were without merit. He's told over and over again, this is just not true, but he continues with it. And they raise money off the big lie. They anger and motivate people to show up on the 6th around the big lie, and those people he incites to attack the Capitol. And it's a pretty clear linear progress of that big lie from beginning to end.
I think there's a question here about accountability that you and I have talked about before. The idea of you're clearly drawing a line between the former president and what happened on this day. You don't have the ability to bring criminal proceedings, but you could make criminal referrals. What's your message to the Justice Department as they're watching the second of these hearings? And, of course, we have several more weeks to go.
Well, look, we have done and are doing a vigorous investigation to find the full facts and follow the facts where they lead, and then share those facts with the American people. The Justice Department, they need to be doing their own investigation. They clearly are investigating many of the people who attacked the Capitol on January 6th and those who organized or funded them. But as our committee has been demonstrating, there were multiple lines of effort to overturn the election. As the judge in California has said, some of those lines of effort likely involved criminal activity on the part of the president. That needs to be investigated by justice as well.
Yeah, so you're saying, I just want to be clear, that you think the Department of Justice should be investigating the former president for his role here?
I think the Justice Department should be investigating anyone, including former presidents, if there is credible evidence that they engaged in criminal activity. And here we've already got a federal judge, based on a limited set of evidence, saying that he believes multiple federal laws were broken. But our job is principally to share the facts with the American people and make recommendations about how to protect the country going forward.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. And Katie.